The DLZ Creator XS from Mackie is a pretty interesting mixer and interface, and it's aimed squarely at YouTubers, podcasters, and streamers. Now, it is not a general purpose mixer. If you come from a music or professional audio background, some of the feature choices might leave you scratching your head. But if you're a content creator, the DLZ Creator XS is going to make a whole lot of sense. So why does it make sense? Well, first off, I should say that the DLZ XS is a more budget-friendly version of their flagship DLZ Creator mixer. Mackie did shave off a few features to make the DLZ XS more affordable, and if you're a solo content creator, I suspect this will be all you need. Mackie has also added some thoughtful touches that make this unit very portable. You could easily record a podcast on location or film an interview while traveling, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. So what does this thing do? Well, first off, this mixer has two XLR inputs, which are actually combo inputs and also accept 1/4-inch cables. Both of those XLR connectors can send phantom power to your mics, and you can assign phantom power independently. Now, I've seen some mixers that turn phantom power on or off for all the inputs at once, so thankfully, the DLZ XS doesn't do that. But of course, there are some other inputs as well. There are two 1/4-inch line inputs, so you could send a keyboard or the output of another mixer or some other line-level audio source to the DLZ XS. There's also an 1/8-inch stereo mini jack input. You could plug the output of a phone or a tablet into that. You can also send audio to the mixer via Bluetooth. That can be useful for music playback or even phone calls from guests. As for outputs, you've got two 1/4-inch outputs to send to your speakers, and there are also two stereo headphone jacks on the back. For interfacing, you've got an Ethernet network connection as well as a USB-C slot to hook up to your computer. And the power supply cable screws into the jack so it won't accidentally get pulled out. That's a nice touch. You also get a USB-A connection, which you can use to power things from the mixer, but you can also plug a thumb drive or like a USB drive into this port and record audio from the mixer to the thumb drive. And finally, you have an SD card slot. Now, you might be used to seeing those on cameras, but the SD card here is used as another way to save or play back audio recordings. This means you can take the unit on the road and record interviews or shows directly into the mixer and then just edit them when you're back in the studio. Now, on the software side, there are some pretty cool and useful features built into the DLZ line. First, you get 3 modes. You got Easy, Enhanced, and Pro. And if you don't want to feel overwhelmed, start in Easy mode. Lots of things are sort of chosen for you behind the scenes. I immediately went to Pro mode, and I got to admit, I felt a little disoriented. It took a little longer than I expected to find my way around, but the layout of the DLZ Creator, it soon starts to make a whole lot of sense. Another cool feature sets your gain levels on your mic automatically. You just tap a button, you speak at your normal level into the mic, and your gain is all set. You can still adjust the level afterwards on the main faders, of course, but this saves a lot of time when you're under pressure to get your mix dialed in quickly. I find it useful when I'm switching between different types of mics since, they all have different output levels. There's also a feature called Auto Mix, and this is great for podcasting or streaming if you have multiple guests. The mixer adjusts the levels depending on when people are speaking or not, so you don't get feedback or too much background noise. And you can also set one channel to be the priority channel. So, for example, the host is always heard if multiple people are speaking at once. I mentioned earlier that the DLZ Creator XS acts as a recording device, not just for your stereo mix, though. It acts as a multi-track digital recorder, recording up to 14 separate tracks independently. This really adds flexibility for getting your final mix just right, because you can just record with the multi-track on the go, and then mix it in post-production. The mixer has 2 headphone outputs, as I mentioned before, and you can assign custom mixes to each headphone jack. For example, maybe you want to hear your guest's voice louder than your own, but on the other hand, your guest doesn't want to hear any of those sampled special effects that you've got on these trigger pads. Well, that can be set up for each headphone. Each channel has dedicated effects. Now, the mic channels have the most, and they have an EQ, a compressor, a gate, and a de-esser. Now, for the line level and the Bluetooth inputs, you get all of that except you don't have a de-esser. Now, the amount of control you get over these effects depends on which mode you're in, like Easy or Enhanced. Even in Pro mode, these effects are really straightforward and easy to use. You also get 2 global effects, reverb and delay, and you can send signal to these from any channel, and then the resulting effect is routed back into the mix, just like turning up a send knob on a traditional mixer. Here, let me show you. Okay, so here's some reverb. And here's some delay. I mentioned before that the DLZ Creator connects to your computer and other devices via USB. You actually get 4 channels of USB, not just 2. And so why is this useful? Well, I mean, think about it. You could route channels 1 and 2 to OBS for a live streaming, for example, and at the same time, you could route a different mix to your digital audio workstation as a backup. And you can also route signals from your computer to the DLZ XS and have different apps using different sets of USB channels. The DLZ can also connect with other devices over an Ethernet network using the NDI protocol, so you can integrate it into a sort of a bigger production situation. The DLZ also has a set of 6 sample pads, and you can assign all sorts of sound to these, which you can trigger just by pushing the button. Now, in the hands of a 5-year-old, these could be pretty annoying. However, these pads do have legitimate uses as well, and there's a couple of nice, thoughtful touches from Mackie. So, for example, you could solo the pad channel before triggering it, just to make sure it's the sound you want, and then it'll play over the headphones, but won't play in the final mix. And you have 8 banks of 6 samples to choose from, so you get a total of 48 sounds, and they're all empty except for the first bank. You can even write over the default sounds if you want, and if you need to get them back, you just do a factory reset. Now, to add sounds to your sample bank, you can either record a sample live, or you can load it off a USB thumb drive, or an SD card. And you can also do some rudimentary editing of these samples in the mixer itself. Mostly just like trimming the beginning and ending and things like that. You can also repurpose these sample pads to act as controls, such as if you wanted to mute a whole group of channels at the same time. Or you can assign one to auto ducking, which is when, like if you have music playing or other audio, and then the volume will reduce automatically when you start speaking. So you can turn that on and off with one of these pads. Or you can have the pads actually operate the effects, like if you just want to punch up a single word or sentence
with, delay or reverb or some weird pitch.
I do have some concerns about this mixer, but they're mostly minor. Now, when I first received the DLX, it crashed on boot up, and I think it was right after I updated the firmware, but from then on, it's been really stable. Speaking of booting up, it takes a long time to be ready to go. It takes 33 seconds from power on to when the faders appear on the screen. Now, I know there's a ton of software in there and you're basically operating an audio computer, but I think it should be faster. And the DLZ is a complicated piece of machinery. In Pro mode, it took me a while to find my way around it. Now, like anything, once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature. There's only one thing that fails the swear test for me. In other words, it gets me swearing, and that's the fact that the headphone jacks are on the back. Now, trying to find the headphone jacks by feel is next to impossible. So either I've got to turn the unit around with cables plugged in, or I've got to get up and walk around to the back. On the plus side though, this unit is really well thought out. And also having that 7-inch touchscreen is just really luxurious. And between the touchscreen and the knobs, I don't miss having a dedicated knob for each function like on an analog mixer. The DLZ Creator XS lists for $499, but I'm currently seeing it available for around $330, which is quite a difference. Now, prices do change, so if you'd like to see the current price, please use the affiliate link I've included in the video notes. I should also point out that Mackie sent me this mixer. I think it's on loan. I don't know that I get to keep it. I certainly hope I do get to keep it, but I'm not being paid for this review. And as always, I tell it like it is. So if I don't like something, I'm going to tell you. And I will tell you also, the DLZ XS is definitely competitive with other mixers aimed at content creators. For example, the Rode Duo. Similar features, lists for about $500. However, I'm not seeing the Duo discounted at all, really. Now, the Duo has faders instead of knobs, but doesn't have nearly as big a screen as the DLZ XS. So, who should buy this? Well, it's obviously aimed at content creators, and it's a smaller, less expensive version of the full-size DLZ Creator, the non-XS version. Solo YouTubers, streamers, podcasters, those are the target audience. But who is it not for? Well, if you need more mic inputs on a regular basis, then getting the full-size DLZ Creator makes more sense. Also, if you're a musician or an audio engineer and you were, hoping to get something that would double as a recording or live mixer, this ain't it. The DLZ Creator XS is squarely aimed at content creators and their unique needs. I'm seriously considering replacing my current interface with the DLZ Creator XS, and my needs are pretty simple, and I do just fine with the Volt 176 from Universal Audio. And the one big advantage of the Volt is it has analog compression. And that means I can protect against audio clipping and allows me to run my signal a little hotter. Now, the DLZ does have that digital compressor built in, but you still need to get your gain settings right beforehand so that you don't clip anything. However, you've got that auto mix feature, which, automatically sets the gain for you. So that makes that whole process way smoother, especially when I'm swapping out mics for a review. But the fact that the DLZ is not much larger than my current go-to interface, and it offers so many useful features, I'm really tempted. Or maybe I'll just keep the DLZ in my studio here, and I'll use the Volt 176 on my work desk. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But either way, the DLZ Creator XS is definitely going to feature into my whole studio workflow from here on out.